let's talk about Lance. So Kyle Shanahan recently went on a podcast with Brandon Marshall and explained that his decision-making process when it came to selecting a quarterback last year, and he said that it came down to Mac Jones and Trey Lance. Those were the final two contestants in Kyle's particular game of The Bachelor. Justin Fields didn't get a rose. He was not invited to the finale. So I guess my question to you is, why do you think Fields wasn't invited to the finale? Why do you think it came down to those two? And why do you think Lance ultimately won out?
Well, I think the reason they didn't include Fields in that discussion, even though he's super talented, it's probably a personality thing. The things you hear about him, and they may or may not be true. I have no idea, what kind of
remember? It was all very vague. People would say there are issues, and people would be like, well, what are they? And then they would say, well, this is what happens all the time to kids coming out of college. It's a shame. But it didn't seem like anyone from his school really said this is baloney. Like, no one really vouched for him that hard.
Well, what makes me mad about it is, okay, well, Mac Jones has DUI. So why is that not an issue? Yeah, right. And it makes me think, is this a race thing? Like, are they being treated fairly? Are Justin Fields and Mac Jones?
But that's a media thing. I don't think Kyle looked at Justin.
Yeah, not from Kyle.
There must have been something about his style of play that turned off Kyle. Maybe it was the freelancing, the running into sacks, the decision making. I don't know, but actually, or maybe there's something that people don't know about Justin Fields, like with Kyler Murray. All of a sudden this year with the studying clause, it's like maybe it's something like that, because clearly Kyle wants a guy who's like as obsessed with studying as he is, right? And I don't know if Justin Fields is like, I have no idea, but maybe it's something like that we didn't know about Kyler Murray, something like that. I don't know.
It could also just be, not that it's a negative personality for Justin Fields, but if you're going to draft a franchise quarterback, well, that's the goal, right? You're drafting a franchise quarterback, and you're going to be working with this person for years, hopefully, and you want to be around people that you enjoy being around. And I think that's one of the main reasons they ended up going with Trey. He had all the intangibles, and he's just a really good dude, a real nice guy, hard worker, football player. I think that was it.
To me, that's it. Because, I remember before the draft, there were a lot of people that I respected who were adamant that Justin Fields was the most talented player after, available for the 49ers at number 3, and that he should be the guy. And a lot of people felt that Mac Jones was that guy. And I think there were arguments for all three. There was no clear-cut number 3 quarterback. But Justin Fields had character concerns. They were never really explained what they were, but they were out there. And I think it's a reason he failed at whatever he felt, 12. Mm-hmm. Mac Jones had a DUI. So he failed to those two had character concerns. And Trey Lance doesn't. And they always talk about his maturity, his demeanor. And I think what ultimately separated him from them, and what made them make their decision, was that, which to me is understandable, but also kind of scary. Like, that's how you choose players, quarterbacks, based on who's the most professional. Really? Because look, I know it's a tough decision, but I don't know if that's the deal breaker. Really? Who does best in your interview with him? I don't know, because I feel like they make this mistake. That was Solomon Thomas, super impressive. Mike McGlinchey, CEO person. Didn't they say that? CEO type. Mm-hmm. About Trey too. I hate to think that they just get sort of enamored by a 22-year-old who's really mature. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that's a big part of the draw for Trey Lance, and to some degree it makes sense. I think with other positions it's probably not as important, but with a quarterback it may be more important than we're giving it credit for, because they are the leader of the team, so they have to be that guy. And unfairly, honestly, I know a lot of kids like Justin Fields, and I don't know Justin Fields well, but I used to coach basketball, and so I would see how other coaches viewed players, and certain players, if they're not outgoing and just really over the top friendly, they think that that's a character issue when it's really not. It's just who they are as people. They're more quiet and laid back, and that doesn't make them bad people. And I think that's probably what happened with Justin Fields more than anything.
I think the Niners are trying to build a particular culture, and it's been very consistent with John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. It's different than the Trent Baalke, Jim Harbaugh culture, because those teams had a lot of people that got arrested and in trouble, and there were DUIs and there was domestic abuse, violence and stuff like that. And I think the Niners are trying their best to not have that on their team. And we've seen them really value character from their first round picks. I think they got duped. I mean, the Reuben Foster thing, he never got actually convicted of anything, but I think they vetted him and felt he was a charming, good-hearted person. You know what I mean? They didn't think they were bringing in a guy who wouldn't respect their culture. I think they thought he would fit right in. I think they have an idea of what their culture is, and maybe Mac Jones, maybe, I don't know, maybe Jed York said, hey, we're not taking a guy like Mac Jones who has a DUI. We don't want that on our team anymore. Maybe Kyle feels he had no choice but to take this. I don't understand, but because Kyle coming out and explaining his thought process makes me feel like he's hedging. Dude, Trey's your quarterback. Why are you talking about Mac Jones?
Yeah, that was one thing you notice about Kyle. I've noticed about Kyle is when he gets around football players, he kind of like wants to be like one of the dudes, and so he'll just start. Yeah, he'll answer any question that you ask him if you're like a well-respected former football player.
That's true. That's true. He kind of blushes a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
Barry Baller 18 says Warriors drafted at Bayudo because he showed up to the meeting in a suit. I'm telling you, grown-ups make these kind of mistakes all the time when judging young people, you know? I understand it's impressive when you meet a very mature young man, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be the best quarter. Look, McGlinchey is the most mature offensive lineman I've ever seen. He's not as gifted as Colton Miller, but he probably did better in the meeting.
Yeah. And what did you say about OJ? I watched one of your shows this week. You were talking about how OJ was like,
oh, well, that's just people who are total, phonies. But yeah, I mean, when the thing with Frank Gore, and I'm reserving judgment because people get accused all the time stuff. We'll find out more soon. But people are like, I can't believe you don't know him. Why would you even assume something one way or another? You've never met him. You've seen him play on a field. He has certain qualities demonstrated in a game. Those are commendable, but doesn't necessarily mean that he's a certain way when he's in private. I mean, unless you've had dinner with him, even if you did have dinner with him, you probably didn't know him. You know, that's why with these things, I'm like, it's just like, well, we don't know.
You never know.
You never know. I guess we'll never know why Kyle chose Lance over those two. But again, I think heavily based on the character, and maybe in the future, the Niners want to like consider athletic traits a little bit higher. Not that Trey doesn't have them, but
I would have drafted Trey
the Michael Glitchy mistake.
If all things were the same, every one of them had same character, personality, everything, I still would have drafted Trey Lance. That's who I wanted them to draft, and I think it was a smart pick. So, I think the character is just a cherry on top for Trey Lance.
Justin Fields was intriguing. I saw him in person. He looked like Kyler Murray in the sense that no one could touch him. Like he was running. He was the offense against the Niners. He had no one to throw to. No one was open. He had no blocking, but he really could. His touchdown scramble was one of the best touchdown scrambles I think I've ever seen. And he throws a really pretty ball. Like in terms of just like athletic traits, Justin Fields is one of the most gifted quarterbacks I think I've ever seen.
You might be right about that. Imagine him playing on this team with the Niners with Kyle Shanahan. That might be.
He does a really pretty spiral. I mean, again, he's on a terrible team, and I don't know if it's ever going to work out for Chicago and him there. But if you're just looking for straight up traits, I don't know. Again, maybe he doesn't study, or maybe he doesn't like coaching, or who knows. But I'd have to hear what that was, because in retrospect, man, it's hard to find better traits than Justin Fields. I'm just saying. Yeah. Because we saw Lance last year, and he definitely, when he gets rumbling down the field, he'll get up to about 21 miles an hour, but he doesn't have that quick explosion that Kyler Murray, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields have, where it's like, boom, he's gone.
Yeah.
Boom, he's around the corner. Like,
that's what I understand. I know they want to use, like, I think Trey Lance is going to be a great quarterback sneak. He'll surpass his mentor, Jimmy Garoppolo, in the quarterback sneak area. But, and I think he's going to be fantastic there. And I know he's a power runner, but why do you want a power running quarterback? Well, I think it's awesome. I think it's going to make him hard to tackle. He's going to make him great scrambling. But I really, probably more so than even you, I really just don't want to see them try and make this guy a running quarterback. I don't.
Here's what I like about him compared to Fields. Lance's instinct under pressure is to step up in the pocket. Mm-hmm. Fields' instinct, as well as Kyler's, is to back out and scramble. Yeah. And they're quick enough to do it, but the great quarterbacks step up, right? And it just shows Trey's mentality. Like, I'm a really gifted athlete, but I want to play the position the right way. And when he steps up, he'll step out and he'll extend the play so he can throw. And like you can sort of see him, he'll be like, okay, fine, I'll scramble. But Justin Fields is like, oh, Elaine, here I go. And that's great. He's super fast. But you always appreciate a mobile quarterback who is trying to do it the right way because we grew up on Steve Young. He wasn't just an athlete out there for the Niner. He wasn't just like, I'm going to wing it. No, he dedicated his 20s to learning how to play the right. He dedicated like 5 years to learning how to play the position the right way. And Trey has that mentality. I don't know that Justin Fields does. I don't know that Kyler Murray does. I guess it would depend on
the best kind of quarterbacks that ever exist are, quarterbacks that can play in the pocket but are athletic and mobile enough to scramble and be effective.
Taveri says Justin Fields has epilepsy. I'm aware. I can't imagine that's the reason that he fell. It doesn't seem like a legit reason to not. That's it. Maybe. I don't know.